Before we jump into insights from all those articles that you've written, maybe you can tell us more a little bit about your background.
My background. I've always been in SaaS, I guess. Previously, before I came to Ahrefs, I was doing content marketing at Referral Candy, which is a referral marketing SaaS. It's a Shopify app as well. If you are in e-commerce, you might have heard of the app. And then during my work at Referral Candy, I met Tim Solo, who is Chief
Uh-huh.
Marketing Officer at Ahrefs, and then I kind of did some work for him on the side after meeting him, and then he hired me
Hmm.
officially after that. So I guess I've been in content marketing maybe 5, 6 years now, mostly in
Hmm.
SaaS. Yep,
Yeah.
and
And
mostly in
Referral
Singapore. Yep.
Candy? Yeah,
Yep.
Referral Candy was also in Singapore and you were doing the same kind of thing, content marketing, content writing.
Yes. Pretty
Hmm.
similar work. Yep.
Okay. So I read some of the articles that you've written, and there was one place where you're referring to best performing article, right? So what do you mean by best performance when you say this? Is it best in traffic, or is it best in engagement, or maybe conversion, or something else?
So usually at Ahrefs, when we say best performance, we kind
Mhm.
of look at search traffic and where we are ranking in Google. So
Hmm.
generally, that is our main. Previously, at the very least, before I guess the March, maybe before this year onwards, I would
Hmm.
say usually the criteria for success it's search traffic. Uh,
Hmm.
and if it's not search traffic, for example, let's say you pitched a topic that was not predominantly based on keyword research, then I guess we can sort of look at social media engagement or maybe even like whether influencers in the industry are sharing your content. So in some way, you're making a dent in the
Hmm.
industry, so you can justify your work in that sense. That I guess like someone like a Lader or even Rand Fishkin is like sharing
Hmm.
your work. So that's considered pretty significant. Yeah, but most of the time we are talking about search traffic because I'm not sure if you guys know at Ahrefs we are pretty infamous for not tracking a lot of things. So we are
Oh
not
yeah.
particularly, uh, I wouldn't say not interested, but we're not particularly tracking any kind of conversion because
Uh-huh.
in some way we do not think that content marketing's ROI or conversion can be measured so easily. Because I think last year also Ran as well had a few articles on the same topic. So basically, like for example, if you're using performance marketing like Google Ads, Facebook Ads, stuff like that, a lot of times even if you're measuring attribution for those ads, uh, content has already done the work. Let's just put it this way.
Hmm.
And if you're just attributing it that way, you might think, oh, performance marketing is converting really well, is doing all the work, but you did not. I mean, attribution is a difficult problem, right, for marketers like us to solve. So I guess to at Ahrefs to fix that issue, we just not attribute anything. We just believe in some way. I guess it's a philosophy behind the company as well. We believe the content is important. We want to educate the industry. We want to educate our customers. We want to educate users and stuff like that. So content is important. Content is a big part of what we do. We believe in it. We don't think that we necessarily need to measure ROI from it because we already believe in it. But of course, we need
Hmm.
some way to know whether what we're doing is working. So and it's a
Hmm.
way to dog food our own product as well. So we use search traffic. We use HS Rank Tracker to track our the target keywords. We use Google Search Console and Ahrefs as well to look at how we are performing. Yep, that's pretty much
Hmm.
it.
Hmm. Yeah, I've been always fascinated by how Ahrefs is not really using any like Google Analytics or any other analytics tools. Also, I think I read a post about that. Quite an interesting approach, quite outstanding as well. You also said that there's no correlation between how long you work on something versus its success, right? So, what would you say determines the success of the article? at the end of the day if it's not really the time or effort that you put into it?
So I think different writers have a different viewpoint because I've read a couple of blog posts from other writers who say that, you know, the more effort you put into a piece, you kind of can see the future ROI. But I guess from my experience writing 100 blog posts, which is mostly, I guess, based on keyword research, in that sense, when it comes to the amount of effort versus whether it will rank well, is really there's no correlation, at least as of the 100 that I've written. Because I think I had an example in my own post that says that, you know, I basically just repurposed one of Sam's, our YouTube guys, videos into a blog post. I basically did not do much edit, not say editing. I did not add much of my own value to the article. I basically just repurposed this video, and it basically just ranked pretty well. I think right now it's dropped to position 8 or 9, but it was one of the top driving posts, even compared to every other post on the blog. So, and I pretty much did that in a day. So, and like there are some articles where you spend so much time doing the experiment, running the study, and you basically get nothing in return. So it's kind of hard to predict what will work in some sense. But I guess maybe I might have to change my tune in the future because we all know, I guess there are maybe a lot of SEOs and marketers here, so we all know after the helpful content update and various updates beyond that, including the one that just concluded, I think Google is really looking for something helpful, useful. You probably need to bring in experience and effort and stuff like that. And effort is something that I mentioned in the search quality guidelines as well. So yeah. I mean, although a lot of SEOs do say right now they do not see any reward for effort, but we'll have to see. I think Google is trying very hard to reward that. Whether we see it now or not in the SERPs, we have no idea. But I mean, in the future, yeah, I mean, effort will pay off, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I've been interviewing Brian Dean yesterday, and we had this conversation. And he actually said exactly the same thing, you know, that again, you know, human content that stands out, that is something that's going to be important, that's going to be ranking at the end of the day. And just like you said, Google is really trying to bring it to the top because everyone has access to the same tools. Like if we're speaking AI tools, for example, and if everyone starts churning out, you know, AI content, it's just going to be a bunch of the same content in the Google search, which Google doesn't really want to end up with. So
yeah, I mean, just to just to add on to that, I mean, I do agree with Brian because at the end of the day, even if we're not talking about just ranking on Google, content has a lot more benefits than just getting search traffic. So I mean, it also provides thought leadership and stuff like that. So if you want to reach more people beyond just search, you need to make something with effort. You need to show like, you know, this is human, I guess. So as of now, as far as I know, before GPT 5 or 6 comes out, they can't put in effort yet. So that's still something that humans can do that GPT can't.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, and I was wondering, how do you guys decide on a blog topic overall for Ahrefs blog? So do you have some kind of process? You know, do you guys brainstorm it together? Do you have a content plan outlined, or is it just, you know, decided to write about that? How does it work?
So each writer on the team, most of our topics are kind of determined by keyword research. But this is done by individual writers. So every writer will do their keyword research. So right now, our plan is every quarter, every writer will bring in a bunch of topics, maybe around 15, 20, 30 topics, mostly based on keyword research. Yeah. And then we'll kind of like pitch the unique idea that we want to write about based on the keyword. And then it gets approved basically by our line manager.
Interesting.
For the next quarter, you'll work on this. But that was I would say before 2024, we were focusing a lot of keyword research. But right now, we are trying to do a nice split between keyword research and non like SEO kind of content because, as we just mentioned, obviously with AI now, like I mean, firstly, search results are not good, and a lot of times, if you want to rank, you basically kind of unfortunately have to copy what is already ranking, even though it's not encouraged by Google. But there's still some optimization involved, right? You still need to show Google what Google wants to see. So, for a company like us, for Ahrefs, even though we want to rank on Google, it's not really a game that we particularly want to play like extremely well because, as I said earlier, there is a kind of philosophy behind content marketing. We believe content is important. So content is also part of our branding. We want to make content that people say it's Ahrefs content. We don't want to say,
Yeah.
oh, we are ranking very well. This is Ahrefs content. We don't want to play that kind of game. We don't want to do copycat content. So we want to go be above and beyond. It has always been our philosophy, our branding. So it's something that we are heavily working on. If you read the blog in this year onwards, comparing that to the previous 2 years, you will probably see a huge change in how we are doing things because we want to go above and beyond like just search content. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And I also believe you have a huge database of subscribers who you can send out, newsletters or any sort of email marketing with your content. So search is not the only source of your, traffic and leads, so to say, right? So it's
Yeah.
not
So
the
we have
only channel that you're
channels.
using.
Yeah, we have. I mean, to be fair, we do have each of us have a certain amount of following on social as well. But I
Yeah.
mean, these days, you look at LinkedIn, you look at Twitter or X, you look at most social media, they heavily dislike links, so it's hard to distribute on there as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how we distribute content right now is mostly like individual posting on social media. Of course, in our newsletter, we run ads to our content. So one reason why we put so much effort and consideration into our content is because each piece of content that we produce is kind of like a sales letter for our product as well. So if you guys have
Mhm.
ever read any piece of Ahrefs content, you will notice that we actually plug and pitch a lot of our tools.
Of course.
So yeah, so a lot of times each of this piece serve as a sales letter, so we can use it to rank on Google. We can run ads because there is some ROI involved right now. We are not running like
Yeah.
some top of the funnel where it's like how to, I don't know, like HubSpot writing about how to buy Bitcoin. Like you'll never run ads. Like HubSpot will never run ads those articles, but for us we can. Maybe not a Bitcoin, but we can run ads to like a piece on content promotion, which kind of pitches Ahrefs a little. We can run ads to a piece of keyword research. We can run stuff like that, and you probably get more
Yeah.
clicks versus like you're trying to send like ads clicks to like a product, like a expensive SaaS product that like quite likely you will not get much clicks, and people don't buy that way either.
Yeah, that's right. And the Ahrefs blog, I guess it's a great example of product-led blogs as well, where you incorporate your product pretty much in every article possible. That's also one thing I like about it, and
Yeah,
always
it.
show to our clients, as an example. So
Thank you.
you mentioned, no, we are big fans of Ahrefs. I think I've been with Ahrefs from day one, back in the days when it just started. But anyway, you mentioned that you also work on refreshing content, blog content. And how often do you normally do that? How often do you update the articles? Again, like, do you have some kind of schedule, or is it like random decision? How does it work?
So every writer right now has I guess, a significant portfolio of articles for the blog. So every quarter we try to pitch around 3 to 5 to update. So we call this quick updates. So we are just looking at basically the articles that we look at for quick updates are those that are already in the top 10, the first page. So we just want to look at why those articles are ranking above us. So we want to make just slight changes, maybe change the definition, maybe change the formatting, maybe change the maybe add FAQs or something like that. Just basically add stuff that looks like it's missing from what Google wants to see.
Yeah.
And for like heavy rewrites are usually for blog posts that have dropped beyond like the page 1. Maybe they're in page 2 or like beyond. So those we consider kind of like as new content. So those are pitched as new content rather than quick updates. So every writer in a particular quarter, they have to pitch topics to update. They also have to pitch topics to write or rewrite.
Okay.
So yeah, so for those articles that have dropped completely beyond page 1, we look at whether we are matching search intent. Maybe the search intent has changed, or maybe like in the past we opted to try something new versus like completely following what was ranking and it didn't work. So maybe right now we want to rewrite it to match search intent better, or maybe the writer, or maybe it could even be like we wrote something to match search intent, but somehow we still didn't rank. So we decided to go for something risky because 2024 onwards, as I said, we are trying newer stuff with our content. So right now, if we are not ranking, even if we try to match search intent, we want to try something risky, like maybe the writer or like someone else in the team has like a very strong opinion about a topic, for example. Like I want to use content promotion. It's an article I wrote recently, maybe a couple of months ago. So what happened was that it dropped. I tried to match search intent. Basically, what people are looking for was just a list of tactics for content promotion. But somehow I never ranked in the page 1. So we were having a discussion in the team, and Tim himself had very strong opinions about the topic. So he said, these are my ideas, take it on board, see whether you want to write about it. And I liked Tim's ideas, but to be honest, it's not exactly what search intent. Sorry?
Yeah. I'm just asking people to mute the mics so we're not interrupting, please. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So for the article, basically, we just decided to go for something risky. We just took Tim's opinion on board. I took Tim's opinion on board and I rewrote it. So it kind of matched search intent, but not exactly, because I think people were just looking for a massive list of tactics. But in that article, we basically just said, content promotion is all. Most people are thinking about content promotion wrong. There are only a couple of ways to do it, like 3 ways to do it. Like it's not a massive list, there's just 3 ways. So we just decided to try something like different, something risky. I look at the SERPs, it's still not ranking well, but on the social engagement side, I've seen a lot of people that I respect in the industry that they are saying, oh, this is a new way to think about things. So basically, it's kind of like a metric that we're also looking at. If people in the industry are saying, okay, you help me think in a new way, we are enjoying your content more than just like, what is X, why is X important, how to do X, like those prep stuff that we see in search. Like we don't want that anymore. Yep.
Okay. And let me quote you actually from one of your posts. As author Morgan Housel says, writing is an efficiency game. Whoever says the most stuff in the fewest words wins. Right? I think that was in one of your articles, and it's an interesting point about length of the article. And I think you also mentioned that you don't really pay that much attention to how long the article is, and you don't really take into account the lengths of the articles of the competitors. Is that true? And how do you decide generally how long the article is going to be? Is it going to be like one keyword or 10 keywords sometimes?
We don't really look at length, to be honest. We
Mm-hmm.
just, yeah, there's no length consideration at all in how we write. We just think about how much we want to cover the
Yeah.
topic, and that's it. Like if we think that topic deserves a lot of effort, for example, like you need to cover very deeply, then obviously because it's deep, it gets
Gonna be
lengthy.
long.
It gets of a
Yeah.
certain length. Sometimes there were a couple of times we just went for a short one because we like, why not try something risky? Just give the searcher what they want. Let's not play the SEO game, like you want to read a
Uh-huh.
recipe and people are writing like Dostoevsky length novels, like like the history of fried rice. Oh my God, just give me the recipe. Like, so we just like, you know what? Just let's not play the game. Let's just give them what
Hmm.
they want, finish it, and that's it. Yeah.
Does it
So
work?
yeah, I've some do, some don't. Again, like I think a lot of times right now we are trying to play more risky rather than because I mean like I think like playing the length game is again playing the SEO game. At the end of the day, I think we can see that the SEO game is not doing that well. I mean, maybe for bigger companies, the SEO game works for them because they can just publish like they can just go to a content optimization tool like ClearScope, Surfer SEO, generate a brief, use AI to do the basic, draft, get a human writer to fix it up, and publish like 10 posts a day. And because they're a big enough brand, they can rank and outrank most people. And it doesn't matter for them because they just want to appear on like basically every keyword. But again, for us, we think of content as beyond just search. Even though we want to rank, we want to build a brand around our content as well. So sometimes we do go for the risky option, even though we know that, I mean, we are all SEOs as well, right? So we know that it's likely
Yeah.
not going to rank, but why not
Hmm.
try it? Why not do something different? Like it's very boring to just play the same game as everyone. I mean, at
Hmm.
the end of the day, we are also marketers, and a marketer's job is to stand out from the crowd, not to look like everyone else. Yeah.
I mean, that's a great approach. And we've discussed a lot of things with you that I think you've learned from your 100 article journey. Is there something that we haven't covered that you'd like to share, some of the insights from this journey? Something significant that.
Yeah, so I think this is something that I've been thinking about recently. So it is not in the blog post because it's only something that I thought about recently. But I think
Ah, nice.
a lot of content marketers, for example, like even for us at Ahrefs, I think we just went for the safe road of going for. I mean, because we are marketers, right? We are kind of at risk of having to always justify our jobs to the team, the stakeholders, stuff like that. So, of course, a lot of people just go for the safe road. This is a keyword. There's X number
Hmm.
of search volume. We're going to generate this amount of ROI. Let me do my work. But like, I'm just thinking about how we can make content that is different because I think if you go to any conference right now, you go to Twitter or you go to LinkedIn, everyone just saying, like content marketing isn't working right now, or at least content marketing over the past like 3-4 years isn't working right now. And that's because we are all playing the same safe copycat content game, right? We're just using the same content optimization tools. We're using the same AI tools to draft our stuff and stuff like that. So, and for that, I've been looking at not SEO to think about how to write better content. I've been looking at like basically things that marketers don't usually read, right? Like I'm just looking at like Substack writers, and these are not marketers. They're just writing. They're just writers. So I'm just looking at how they do it, how they write essays, and a lot of times, like for me myself, I pitch topics. Especially now that I'm trying to write a lot of non-SEO topics, I pitch a lot of topics that sounds good on paper in my head, and when I start writing it, it's completely crap. like so many times, and then I have to publish a post that I'm not particularly happy with. So I think that basically in some way I've even for myself and for the team or for many content marketers, we've gotten the process wrong. A lot of times you don't know whether a topic is good until you write about it. So I've been thinking maybe the correct way is to draft, and then find within the draft ideas that you want to write about. But this is a bit more of a writing approach rather than a marketing approach. So maybe some people might disagree. But yeah, this is just something I'm thinking about. It's not fully fleshed out, but I'm just thinking about it.
Okay, just a moment. There's a Christian who wants to ask something. Christian?
Yep. Hello.
Christian, you have your...
Yes. How's it going?
Okay.
Thank you guys. Thanks for giving me the floor. I just had a quick question, and that's with regards to the content frameworks that you have. So I think, first of all, thanks a lot for this chat. It's a really good chat, and I really like the human approach to content writing. It's refreshing, and I think that you'll be rewarded in the future by Google. So I do think that this is something that they'll reward eventually. Fingers crossed. Exactly. But just real quick, I'm very curious. Do you have any favorite content frameworks that you use right now? You're referring to essays, you're referring to just different styles of writing. But for example, Brian Dean, he does refer to different content frameworks that work. Do you have any preference yourself, or do you always start also from scratch and just think of what would work best for this particular topic that I'm trying to educate the audience on? Thanks.
So right now, I would say I don't really have a content framework. I think what I'm more concerned about is the hook or the frame of the topic that I'm going to write about, like the angle that I will approach, because I think that probably determines like most of the piece itself. There is no particular frame. I mean, I think not to disparage frameworks. I like frameworks myself. I started off writing a lot of frameworks, but I do think maybe the kind of frameworks that SEOs look at is part of the problem, because like we're just applying, we're just thinking, okay, this is the search intent is a listicle. I have a listicle framework. It needs to cover like, I mean, I've seen Brian's stuff, right? It needs to like, okay, it needs to include this that I've researched from my competitors. It needs to fill in a certain amount of words, like expanded list is what he used to call it. And I think that might be part of the problem. It might be even worth taking the risk to play around with like how the essay flows. I don't know. Like, we hired Ryan recently. I've been learning a lot from him. So like, if you were to ask me, like, if I were to observe how Ryan writes, so Ryan is Ryan Law. He used to be director of content He used to be head of content at Animals. So he's now director of content marketing at Ahrefs. I think he's pretty well known in the content marketing industry. So if you want a framework that I can offer, I took his course, how to write thought leadership. So I think he uses the Hegelian dialectic to write his intros and to formulate posts. So I think it's the thesis, antithesis, synthesis framework or something like that. So you write about, let me pull out my notes. Let me see if I can pull out my notes for that. Or you can just Google Hegelian dialectic. So that might be helpful.
Of course. Yeah, we can also put that in our follow-up email. We can share with everyone who's been with us today. You can share with me, I'll share with everyone else.
All right. So, okay, I got it. So basically, just to keep it simple. So the thesis is to articulate the status quo. The antithesis is to present an alternative argument. And the synthesis is to reconcile both and you reach a conclusion. So I guess that is kind of a framework you can use to approach like non-SEO / thought leadership content versus like, like the standard SEO stuff. You need to write what is X, why is X important, how to do X, and then add a bunch of FAQs that you generated from some long tail keyword research, or people also ask boxes. Yeah, so this is like maybe a good framework for writing thought leadership content.
Okay, well, thank you. We will definitely share that. We'll discuss this with you. You'll share the link with me, and I'll share it with everyone else. So moving on to the conversion, right? So I really wanted to chat with you about that. So you mentioned that conversion is not like really that important for Ahrefs blog, but still, you guys connect the ROI to every blog post, right? By incorporating Ahrefs to the blog posts and having the product-led content. How do you ensure that conversion still? Like, what is the best way to incorporate Ahrefs to the blog articles? You know, how to ensure that conversion with your blog posts. Maybe you have some recommendations to other SaaS businesses who are not necessarily ignoring conversion. Like, what is the way for them to write their content to get the signups?
So we are a terrible company to talk to about conversion. We have absolutely no conversion measurement.
Great topic of our event then.
Absolutely no CRO involved as well. So absolutely no attribution measurement. So horrible topic for this company. But I guess in terms of content, how we look at it, you can Google business value Ahrefs. So it's something that Tim came up with. So we score every topic that we pitch with a business value score from 0 to 3. So basically 3 is like you basically can pitch your product, right? So for us, link building, a topic like link building, that's like business value of 3 because like it's impossible to do link building without like Ahrefs basically. Or like keyword research is basically almost impossible to do keyword research with Ahrefs. And then business value of two is kind of like SEO tips, like a topic like SEO tips. So maybe like keyword research is involved. It's a bunch of SEO tips, but some involve like our tool set. So it's a business value of 2. We can pitch Ahrefs. It's not a must, but we can pitch it. And then there is business value of 1, which is like you can kind of squeeze some mention, like I don't know, marketing tips, marketing tactics. You can mention SEO as a tactic. You can say, oh, in order to do SEO, you need an SEO tool, and you need Ahrefs. So it's kind of like you can kind of mention our product, but not necessarily. Maybe just 1 tip out of like 10. And then there's 0, obviously. I mean, straightforward. You can pitch our product as well. So how we prioritize our topics is basically we really seriously look at business value. So a lot of times the argument is kind of about a business value. We just do we have to write about this topic? Is there any business value? Can you pitch Ahrefs? Can you like somehow mention Ahrefs? Like, can you reframe the argument little to include like Ahrefs? It could be like even for business value, 1 topics like website examples, like something like that. Or maybe that's a 0 or a 1, but it might be a 0. We can make it a 1 by showing like, okay, this is the search traffic for 10 websites. Then we just show the chart of these companies using Ahrefs too, and that's it. Like it's a simple mention, not particularly not a strong hard sell or anything, because you don't really need Ahrefs to see any of these things.
Yeah.
But you, as a writer, you can kind of like, our job is kind of like to reframe a little, look at a thing. Like how can we maybe somehow write certain things in certain ways to naturally include the product is how we ensure conversion. But again, we don't measure any of these things. It's just a philosophy, I guess, at the end of the day.
That's right. I think it reminds me of what we call high intent. You know, this like low intent keywords sort of, and you know, high intent, medium intent. That's at least what I call them. That's very similar to business value score that you guys are having inside of Ahrefs. Okay, so one of the burning questions, I guess, that everyone has these days is AI, right? And do you guys use AI at any stage of the content planning, content writing process?
Personally, for me, I use AI. Not to draft, of course. I use AI a lot in research. For me, like personally, I know I'm kind of like a SEO, working in an SEO company, but a lot of times, to be honest, I don't ever use Google anymore. I use Perplexity most of the time, like 90% of the time. Unless I'm looking for something local, then I have to use Google. But so Perplexity is amazing. I just basically ask it a bunch of questions for my article and get a summary. Like it's so useful. For example, like I was just writing a blog post about, I was just compiling a bunch of statistics for an article, kind of like a link bait style article. And like basically I just asked it to give me a bunch of statistics and I didn't have to like, like scroll through like so many articles just to find things. So I really like Perplexity
Yeah.
for that. For summaries
Yeah.
as well, like basically you just want to answer to a question you have for writing content. You don't really want to click 5 articles that say the exact same thing anyway. So it's really useful. I
Yeah.
use ChatGPT a lot for title and headline brainstorming. Yeah, so yeah, I use that. I also write the newsletter, so I also use ChatGPT a lot just to summarize articles because I cannot read like so many articles just to see if I want to include any of them. So I use it a lot
Yeah.
to summarize stuff for me. I just basically to see if it's worth including. What else do I use ChatGPT for? I mean, it's hard to say, but I definitely use AI. I just use it for a bunch of random things all the time. I just have questions. I'm just asking ChatGPT or Perplexity. I ask it to do some random task for me. I just ask it if I'm stuck on a sentence. I just ask it to see if there's any new ideas. I'm stuck on a title. I ask it to give me ideas. Sometimes I ask it to generate an outline just to see if there's anything I missed. Yes, yep, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yep.
that makes sense. I mean, that's great to hear. We also love Perplexity. And I think the ways that we use AI is like very, very similar to what you just said, not for the text itself, right? Because you just see that too much these days. This AI content, you can spot it a mile away. So we avoid it at all costs. But generally, with AI developing so fast, how do you think it's going to change the job of the content writer going forward?
Whoa, this is a tough question. To be honest, I have no idea because like basically we are all guessing, right? I mean, we are just
Yeah,
waiting
we
for
are.
OpenAI to come up with GPT-5, and none of us have any idea what GPT-5 can or cannot do. So
We don't.
yeah, so I mean,
That is true. So
absolutely no idea.
yeah, life will show, definitely. And let's move on to some of the questions that we have from our guests here. And so there's Rabia who's asking to share the link if possible. Which link was that? I'm not sure. Can you please specify? There's another question on which companies, according to you, are doing content right. I mean, taking a lot of risks and standing out of the crowd. SQ, would you mind answering that question? Which companies you think are doing content
Wow.
right? Other than Ahrefs,
Which,
of course.
well, just honestly, this is such a tough question to answer because I think personally speaking, I'm like most people because I know, let's be honest, none of us have. I mean, back in the good old days, we are like checking out blogs and reading, like we are following like people and reading their blogs. But like these days, like how many of us are really just following a company blog, even if they're doing good stuff, right? We're just finding them from search or discovering them somehow from somewhere like social or like a newsletter and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
to
that's
find a
fine. Sorry.
I mean, personally, these days I'm looking a lot at Substack. So if you're asking me who's writing very, very good stuff, I would say West Cow, if you know who she is. West Cow is writing, I will just send a link, but West Cow is writing some incredible stuff like on her Substack. Like, and like basically if like I think my problem with SEOs is that we are too in the SEO bubble. So we're just looking at each other how other SEOs are doing things. But the thing about SEOs is that sometimes the best way to do SEO is not to think like an SEO. So like I try to escape the bubble as much as possible. So a lot of times if you go to like very, very good writers, they are basically have the way they write, they have zero consideration about SEO. Because they're writing from their expertise, they're writing from their experience. They're just trying to share something. They're writing an essay. They don't care about like oh, I need to fulfill X word count. I need to mention Y keywords and stuff like that. They're just writing,
Yeah.
and I find it very refreshing. I learn a lot from them, and it's kind of the content that I would personally read, not like any stuff that I'm finding on Google, which is why I'm using Perplexity, because I can't be bothered to read anything on Google these days because everything is so bad. Yeah.
I guess it's this eternal dilemma, right, between uh, sort of quality journalism and great content and SEO, right? Because SEO puts some limits and some frameworks and some traditional things that everybody expects you to follow, and something that Google is expecting to see in the Google search, which again limits your in a way, creativity and whatever you really want to say with your wording, right? So not following what you want to write, but you actually need to follow what you have to write. That's, I guess, the problem that we all have with Google right now. So we kind of have to find this compromise.
Yeah. So, sorry, a company popped into my head because I was looking at a newsletter, and I would say this company is doing content quite similar to the kind of things that I will read. So I really want to praise them. So that would be SparkToro.
Okay. SparkToro.
Yeah.
Isn't that Rand Fishkin?
Yeah, Rand Fishkin's company. Yeah. So they don't publish very often. So and I know Rand is famous. Rand is famous as an SEO, but if you look at the content, the way they are writing has absolutely no SEO considerations at all. And maybe that's why I find it like refreshing. And like their content, the moment like Rand publishes something, it's like unique, it's like filled with data or experience, and everyone just sharing it. I mean, of course, his personal brand plays a huge part in the distribution. But personally, like, even if an unknown person were to do that same quality or the same data or orientedness, like I think they would do really well as well. Like even if it was not published by Rand or anyone or Amanda, which is the other person in the team.
Maybe, not necessarily though. That's probably arguable. It's really hard to get started from scratch. Like when you're kind of like starting from zero, no matter how great like it's a really long way, right, to get there. And because Ren has a name, obviously it's much easier for him to, and I think he can't really go with a low quality content. Like it would just look bad if he would be churning out some SEO pieces, right, like one after another. So
but everyone will forgive him because he's SEO, right? I mean, everyone would know the game that he was playing. I mean, I'm not saying like someone from scratch will do exactly as well as Rand, but I do think that even if you're starting from scratch today, you're not going to beat like any of the major companies in search. So you have to find a way to stand out. Like let's say you want to do content, and you probably have to aspire to the quality that Rand is publishing, even if you don't have his name, because like how are you going to beat, like if you're making a marketing SaaS today, how are you going to beat in the SERPs? HubSpot.
No. Marketing, there's no way. Sales and marketing
no way.
Super
so you have to find a way to stand out. So you have to aspire to a quality like Ren or Amanda or even Ryan in my own team. Like you're not going to beat like any major company today on what is X, why is X important kind of writing,
Yeah, that one for sure. But again, I mean, luckily there are other niches other than sales and marketing, which is quite possible still to compete in SEO, because again we work with a lot of other companies, not just sales and marketing, and I know how hard it is in sales and marketing. I get your pain. Okay, so let's move on to the next question because we have, I think, 10 minutes left on our timeline. What are the features of good and bad content according to your experience? I think you've talked enough about that. Yes, the good content, the bad content. So we can probably get into the other question. What do you think about adding SME quotes in content? Seems a lot of companies are really taking them as a big deal nowadays. Do you think without SMEs, a content won't perform well, or it depends? What do you mean by SME, Mariam?
I think she means subject matter experts, maybe.
Okay, subject matter experts quotes in content. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I wouldn't see it as quotes or no quotes. Again, I think the big problem with SEOs is that we really think too much like a SEO. Like we think, oh, SME quotes is a tactic I need to implement. So like, let me try to like shoehorn a random quote just to like play the Google game. But like at the end of the day, you want to make good content. If you don't have the necessary experience or necessary expertise, you will have to talk to somebody to write that, because like any AI tool can do like the basic stuff now, right? They can complete like like they can say anything basic, anything general, but what people want to see, if we believe that Google is really using user signals, and they are, I think. Uh, so if a user, and Google relies on user signals, and a user clicks in and see that it's a very generic piece that they suspect is written by an AI or some very cheap writer or Fiverr or Upwork, they're going to click back. So because they want to read something that has a nuance that can only be written, I mean, the nuance, the stories and everything, that can only be written by somebody with experience or expertise. And I mean, Google is looking for that as well, EEAT, right? So it's not a tactic.
Yeah.
It's like a philosophy you should have when writing content anyway.
Definitely, yeah. And we all know that experience-based content works much, much better than just generic content. And again, everyone can use AI these days. So another question that we have, okay, if it's really useful, what? Okay. Can you quickly walk us through your content development and distribution journey? What are the major steps? Sorry if this was already covered. So I think we've already gone with you through a content development process for Ahrefs, how your writers are getting together and like pitching the topics, and also topics for updates. And this was asked by Rabia. We are going to send the recording of the call in the follow-up email, so you will be able to see the first 20 minutes that you have missed. And there's another comment by Simon Toro. It adds up to EEAT, isn't it? If it's really useful. Okay, so I guess like what you're saying, right, is kind of like around this EEAT concept, right? When we have to consider like authoritative, trustworthy, experience-based expertise, etc. So you, I believe you support this concept a lot in what you're saying.
Yep. I mean, personally, within the company, is something we are doing. We kind of stopped doing for a while, but we are going back. In the early days, we were doing a lot of it. Like basically, like as long as we were covering a topic that we didn't have any like this was even way before like Google mentioned anything about EAT or EAT.
Yeah.
So back in the early days, as we say, like content is really a huge part of our branding. We want to make content that stands out for everyone. So in the early days, we were, as long as it was a topic that we basically had no experience or expertise in, we immediately went to find somebody to interview. A very good example was we were writing about Google penalties, and fortunately, Ahrefs has never suffered a penalty. So we immediately went to, in those days, the number one expert on Google penalties, which was Marie Haynes. So we immediately interviewed her, and then we just wrote the article based on like her experience. Yep. And then I guess kind of along the way, we try to scale out our content, and then it was basically much easier to just write. without interviewing experts, and probably a reason why our content quality dropped significantly. So we are going back again to that. Like, again, anything that we do not know anything about, we immediately are looking for somebody to ask, because we don't want to sit down here and write like crap, basically. Like, it's not part of our brand. Yep.
That's a great approach, definitely. So I don't think we have any more questions, unless I've missed something. Okay, there's one more message. Such an awesome opportunity to be here. Okay. How has the impact of the new helpful content update changed your view of content and using strategies? The question about new helpful content update.
So I think rather than a helpful content update, we were not particularly concerned about a helpful content update. I think we were more concerned on AI, not the fact that we can't use AI, or we had a stance against not using AI, but more like, if everyone could use AI, then basically anyone can generate content, and content out there is going to be terrible. And if Google cannot differentiate AI and normal, like another piece of content, then it's going to be getting harder to rank. We need to stand out, not just in the search. We need to stand out as, I mean, it always goes back to just the philosophy of the company. Content is very important to us. Content is part of the brand. We don't want to just look like, we don't want to write content that looks like it could be generated by AI. So I would say, rather than being too overly focused on helpful content, we were really concerned about just basically too many people making bad content using AI, and we will end up getting stuck with everyone else, like, oh, this is just bad AI SEO content. So we wanted to go beyond that. So a big part is probably a big reason why we hired Ryan. We started, like, as I said, taking risks, doing things that may or may not rank, start to interview more people, cover topics that are not search related, stuff like that. Yeah. Going back to, I guess if you are experienced enough, you might even say this is the good old day of content marketing, because this was how content marketing was maybe like 8-9 years ago. I mean, I wasn't around, but I've heard that from many content marketers. Like, this was the good old days of content marketing. People were just publishing like unique stuff, helpful stuff, experience, content from experience and expertise. Then somehow along the way, SEOs came in, took over content, and everyone started playing the game. Everyone started thinking too hard about, oh, how many keywords? Should I link out to other people? Should I add this anchor text? And content became like a machine. It became so boring, and people start like, basically, that was the problem, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, back in the days, I remember, like, we were reading and inspired by, what was his name? Well, Alex, I'm not sure about the last name, but the tool was Groove HQ. Maybe you've heard about that.
Right. Yes, the guy who wrote about his journey, right? His entrepreneurship journey. Yeah.
And it was a big deal, and that's actually what inspired us back in the days to get started with the content, in the first place. So it was great. But yeah, hopefully it's going to return to where it started. Hopefully we're going to all get back to the quality content, experience-based content, and content that's a pleasure to read. Yes. I think it's time to wrap up for now. We're almost at 6 p.m. And let me ask you. It's been a super insightful interview, but we've learned so much today, about your processes and your insights, and also the philosophy behind the company, which is amazing and outstanding. And guys, I'll be sending a follow-up email with our LinkedIn details. So everyone who signed up will be able to connect, and also you will receive the recording of the event. Thanks everyone for choosing to spend this hour with us. Please stay tuned for our future events. Have a nice end of the week, and keep your SaaS content top notch. Bye. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye. Thanks for joining.